Call the roll of the members present. Tom Golden.
Tom Golden, present.
Tom Pope.
Tom Pope, present.
Bob Levine.
Present.
Paul Genta. Now, Paul, for our first agenda item, which is 339 Boston Post Road, our permanent chairman, Paul Genta, has recused himself because he is in a butter. And so we will conduct that portion of the meeting with just Bob Levine, Tom Pope, Tom Golden, and myself as active members. Tom Golden, would you read the notice of the hearing?
Oh, I'm doing 339 Boston Post Road. Got it?
Yes.
Notice is hereby giving that a public hearing will be held August 25th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. in Marlborough City Hall and remotely on the petition of the below named person seeking an appeal as follows. The petition. Applicant seeks a special permit under 650 Article 6, Section 23D, Floodplain and Wetland Protection District of the City of Marlborough zoning ordinance to conduct certain filling and excavation work in a floodplain area, all in connection with its proposed 188-unit multifamily apartment project. Property is located at 339 Boston Post Road East, map 72-35, 73-28, 24, and 26. Plans and other information are on file in the Zoning Board of Appeals office on the basement level of City Hall. For further assistance, please contact the board at 508-460-3768. All interested persons are invited to the public hearing. Applicant or representative must be present.
Thank you. We should note that this meeting is a continuation of the meeting that was held on August 10, where the Zoning Board of Appeals is awaiting a determination from the Conservation Commission on conditions. And my understanding is that the Conservation Commission did not meet on August the 20th as planned, on August 20th as planned, did not produce the order of conditions because there had been some changes to the plans that had been submitted. And so they continued their meeting their hearing to the next date of September 3rd. And so that means that if the zoning board is to see the order of conditions, it will have to be sometime in September. So I think, Sue, that means that we will continue this meeting to a date certain in September. Is that correct?
Correct. Brian Falk, are you in the audience?
I'm here, Susan.
Okay. Do you want to say something, please?
Thank you. The chairman had it exactly right. We introduced some plan changes to take some of our amenity areas out of the 100-foot riparian zone, which was something that the Conservation Commission had asked that we look into, and we did. The plans came in that day, so the Conservation Commission opted to continue their deliberation and vote on our order of conditions until their next meeting on September 3rd. So we're hopeful that next Thursday, September 3rd, we'll have our order of conditions approved, and then this board will be in a position to vote on the special permit.
Thank you, Brian. So do the members have their calendars? And Sue, would you help us find the next meeting date?
Let's see. How about the 15th, or sometimes, let's see, the 8th, the 15th? Doesn't have to be a Tuesday. It could be any other day.
Well, let's poll the members. Are you suggesting the first date would be September 15? Are the members available on September 15?
I'm available all the Tuesdays in September.
Me too.
I'm sorry for that. Say it again.
All the Tuesdays in September are good for Levine.
Are good for you.
Yes.
All the Tuesdays are good for me, Tom Golden.
Okay.
As well for me, Tom Pope.
Tom Pope. Okay, and for me as well. So, Sue, would September 15th be the first practical, excuse me, first practical date?
Okay, how about you, Brian? Is that okay?
That's fine. I heard September 8th is a possibility. I mean, we'd certainly be even happier if that was the possible date.
Sue, if the Conservation Commission meets on the 3rd, at what point would the order of conditions be available to this board?
Okay, well, Labor Day is the 7th, so,
That's probably just looking up.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think the 15th is good, or you want to pick another date after Labor Day, that's that week?
Do we have other items for the agenda, on the agenda for that meeting, for this next meeting?
No, the 15th will just be 339 Boston Post Road.
All right.
Yes, this week. Works for me.
15th?
15 works for me.
Okay, 15th.
All right, do I hear a motion then to continue this meeting to September 15th?
I make a motion to continue to the September 15th, Tom Golden.
Second, Levine.
What time? 7?
7 o'clock. All right, shall we take the vote? Excuse me, Bob Levine,
Yes.
Tom Pope,
Tom Pope votes yes.
Tom Golden,
Tom Golden votes yes.
and Ralph Lofton votes yes. So we will continue then to September the 15th at 7 o'clock, and hopefully we'll have everything we need to render an opinion.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will close this part of the meeting, and I will hand the gavel over to Paul Giunta.
Can we start here, Lisa?
Vote to adjourn.
Do we need a vote to adjourn this part of the meeting? In which case, I'll entertain the motion.
Pardon me?
You don't have to adjourn.
No.
I want you to adjourn.
You got everything, Paul? You got everything?
Denial.
So Sue, do we need to adjourn this portion of the meeting and then reopen with the other subject?
No, we'll just announce we're gonna hear 45 Maple Street.
All right.
Okay. Marlborough Zoning Board of Appeals is now in session. Tom Golden, you want to read the notice of the hearing?
Notice is hereby giving that the zoning board of appeals will hold a virtual public meeting on August 25th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Please see below on how to participate virtually. The petition to convert the existing 4-family, 2-unit commercial business to a 6-family residential dwelling building at 45 Maple Street, parcel ID 70-274A and 70-275A, located in the Business Zoning District B, seeking relief under Chapter 650-48 and 650-17, street parking requirement, and table of uses of City Code of Marlborough. For further assistance, please contact the board at 508-460-3768. All interested persons are invited to the virtual meeting. Applicant or representative must be present.
Thank you, Tom. The chair is going to take a roll call vote of the members present since this is a virtual meeting and it's being recorded. So we get it.
Bob Levine is present.
Tom Golden is present.
Tom Pope is present.
Ralph Lofton is present.
Paul Junter is present. Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Yes, good evening. My name is Michelle Barata, and I represent Big Man Realty Trust and Mark Resnick, the trustee of Big Man Realty Trust, the owners of 45 Maple Street.
Okay. Anything you can tell us that's not already in the application, Ms. Barata?
Yes, happy to. So 45 Maple Street, prior to 1974, was a multifamily 6-unit residential building. In 1974, the previous owner purchased the building, Mr. McAllister, I believe his name was, and he was an accountant. And so he sought permission to convert the first floor to offices for his own personal use. And that was obviously granted. And that was when the property was converted to this multi-use that it is today. Unfortunately, he passed away, and in 2018, the property was purchased by my client. Since then, he's not been able to find anyone interested in commercial units in this particular area. It's a primarily residential area. The commercial units, it's really more suitable to the situation that the previous owner had, where it's someone who owns the building, runs his own business, and then just rents the upstairs to renters. So my client sought to convert it back to 6-unit residential. The main issue with that is the parking and the open space requirements. There is 8 parking spaces in the park. There's essentially a parking lot, and there's also a driveway. So I know that the initial denial from the building department cites it as having 8 spaces. It's really 8 spaces plus a driveway for possibly 2 more spaces. However, zoning would require for a 6-unit apartment building that there be 12 parking spaces. I will point out, though, that zoning for commercial would require a parking space per every 250 square feet. And the commercial units is approximately 1,600 square feet. So that would be 6 spaces just for the commercial, plus 2 each for the 4 residential upstairs. So that's 14 spaces. So technically speaking, converting it back to residential would make it slightly more conforming to the intent. And we can also attest to the fact that the current parking is more than sufficient already, that the residential tenants are not using 8 spaces. I believe they're using 4 or 5 spaces for the 4 units upstairs. So there should be sufficient parking for additional residential units. The other issue, obviously, is open space. I think it goes without saying, if we create more open space, there's going to be less parking. If we create more parking, there's going to be less open space. So it's kind of a difficult situation for the client to be in. He can't really be in compliance with both at the same time, with the size of the lot that it is and the size of the building that's on it. So we do feel that this is actually the best setup that you could possibly have, where there is some amount of open space. The petitioner is willing to work on the landscaping and making it even nicer for the residents, and obviously keeping the parking lot and the driveway as in good shape as possible. But that's the essential gist of it. But I'm happy to answer more specific questions about the situation.
Okay, any members of the board have any immediate questions? I have a couple of questions myself. Mr. We do have a letter. Did you receive a copy of the denial letter from the building department?
Correct. Yep.
You did. Okay, I think I'm going to read it just to make sure it's in the recorded minutes of this hearing. It's a zoning denial letter addressed to Mark Resnick, trustee and registered agent for Big Man Realty Trust, care of the Beantown Companies, 100 Felton Street, Suite 201, Waltham, Mass. 02453. Mr. Resnick, your building permit application BP 2020-000224 to convert the existing 4-family, 2-unit commercial business to a 6-family residential dwelling building located at 45 Maple Street, Marlborough, Mass. Parcel ID number 70-274A and 70-275A. Located in the Business District B is denied as it does not comply with Chapter 650-48 and 650-17 off-street parking requirement and table of uses of City Code of Marlborough. The zoning ordinance states that your use requested requires relief of the following. A 6-unit apartment building requires 12 parking spaces. You propose only providing 8 spaces. 650-48A, paragraph 7, apartment buildings shall provide 2 off-street parking spaces for each dwelling unit over and above access roadways and maneuvering. You propose 50% compact parking spaces, a ratio to a full-size parking space. 650-48C 4B percentages. Up to 33% of parking spaces may be designed for use by cars smaller than full size, hereinafter called compact cars. Next paragraph, you propose a maneuvering aisle width of 16.4 feet, the required 24/20 feet, degree of angles not provided on the plan. 650-48C3 with the maneuvering aisles chart requires a 24 or a 20-foot maneuvering aisle, depending on the degree of angle of the spaces. Your proposed parking lot layout will require vehicles to back out of the parking lot into the public way. The public way is Maple and Terrace. 650-48C 8A backing into street. In no case shall parking or loading stalls be so located as to require the backing or maneuvering of vehicles onto the sidewalk or into a public way upon entering or leaving the stall, except for single or 2-family houses. Final paragraph, there is no landscape area of sufficient size in your lot to qualify for 650-18A 9E. Table of uses, multifamily condition 4. 650-18A4 in part reads, in addition, it has a landscape area meeting all the requirements of subsection 650-18A 9E. 650-18A 9E, there shall be landscape area provided equal to the greatest single floor area of the building. 45 Maple Street, first floor is plus or minus 1,640 square feet. The landscape area shall meet the following requirements. At least 75% of the landscape area has a grade of less than 8%. The width of such landscape area shall average at least 40 feet and in no case shall be less than 30 feet. The landscape area shall be designed for recreational use by residents. Your proposed conversion to a 6-unit apartment building will require zoning relief issued by the Marlborough ZBA. An appeal from this denial may be taken to the Zoning Board of Appeals by filing a notice of appeal with the city clerk within 30 days of the date of this denial letter. Further information should be obtained from the Board of Appeals Secretary Susan Brown at 508-460-3768. The code in its entirety may be found at www.ecode360.com/MA1056. Please note that after obtaining the required zoning relief above, please return to this office in order to obtain a letter to proceed to seek a special permit for the Marlborough City Council for the expansion of a multifamily structure. Signed, Jeffrey Cook, Building Commissioner. And the date of the letter was April 28, 2020. I've got a few comments to make, Ms. Baroda. Your plan shows 8 spaces at an angle, and based on what is in that denial letter, it doesn't say what the degree of the angle is. And that the maneuvering aisle is only 18 feet, if I'm reading that correctly. I'm sorry, 16.4 feet. The requirement is that you would need 12 parking spaces, and you only have 8.
Well, we have 8 parking spaces and the driveway. They did not discuss the driveway in there, but you could fit 2 more cars, so that would be 10.
Where are the other 2 spaces?
If you look at the plans in front of you, to the right of the building, there's a driveway. That's also part of the property.
The driveway that's in the right of way?
It says Vitamin
To the right
Drive.
of the building?
To the right of the building, correct. You see the word driveway.
And you have two cars will be tandem parking there?
Correct.
2 would be 10, okay?
Yeah. So it would still be short, but again, if we remain commercial, we're short by even more parking spaces.
And where's the landscape area? The only thing I see for landscaping area is in the front of the building.
I believe that's pretty much it, although Mr. Resnick is on the line as well and probably speak more to the landscaping than I can.
Hi, my name is Mark Resnick, and there is a area in the backyard where there's landscaping behind the house where like people actually, you know, there's barbecues and other things like that that are out there right now.
I'm sorry, can I have your name again?
I'm Mark Resnick, the petitioner.
I have a question with regards to landscaping. Folks, it appears that you're removing landscaping in the front of the building to the right. You're creating a new entry and landing and ramp. Which, based on what I've seen, it appears that you'd be removing actual landscaping that now currently exists in front of the building. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. We're not removing any landscaping. There's landscaping currently existing in the front of the parking lot, between the parking lot and the road. And there's a little bit of landscaping to the right and left of the front entranceway, and we wouldn't be removing any of that. We're not actually creating any new spaces, and we're not removing any landscaping. We would just be upgrading the landscaping. We've already spent a couple $100,000 renovating the upper floor units. And obviously, we're just trying to get the last 2 units finished up.
When I went by to see the site today, I noticed that you do have 4 parking spaces on the right as you came in from Maple Terrace. And you had 2 going perpendicular to the side of the house. And then there were 4 parking spaces, but 2 were being utilized, one by a dumpster and another by some type of a trailer with a hitch on it.
Yeah, you're right. See, I was looking, it does not look like a building.
Yeah, the parking that's there now is not fully occupied by the tenants, which is why why they would be open currently. And then obviously they would be cleared out and made available to additional tenants if the first floor was converted.
And the trailer is a construction trailer, so that'll be gone once the work is complete. We're currently doing some exterior work to the parking area with a retaining wall and also some painting of all the dormers and things like that. And that's why that trailer is there, just for workmen.
What about the location of the dumpster in one of those parking spaces?
That'll
Remain
be,
there?
no, it will not. I think it's actually, the only dumpster that'll remain will be a little, like a 2-foot roll-off one. The dumpster that's there now also relates to the construction work that's being done.
You understand?
I don't understand what you're saying. It doesn't seem like a lot of trash space for that many people.
I was there today and saw a resident using that dumpster to dispose of trash.
Right, correct. Currently, we're letting them use it until the construction is complete, and then we'll just have a much smaller dumpster with wheels, and we'll not be using a construction-sized dumpster like the one that's there now.
And where would that dumpster be placed precisely?
I would have to, rather than tell you exactly, I'd rather double check that and find the proper location. That would be the best location for it. But probably closer to the house, but not within the parking areas. So as the diagonal parking spaces, inside the closest to the house, there should be an area enough to put a dumpster that wouldn't be visible from the street and that would not block the parking in the triangular sections next to the house. And when we have a dumpster, if we prefer to have a larger one, all we do is just get more pickups, so that instead of having, let's say, 2 pickups per week, we would just have 3 if the dumpster was a little undersized. Or a lot of them in Marlborough, we just have once a week pickup. So if the dumpster is on the smaller side at this location, we would use 2 pickups. We don't know how much dumpster we'll actually need because only 4 of the 6 units are currently occupied.
Sir, could you repeat your name again and your address? Are you the owner of the property? Or?
Yes, I'm a trustee as one of the owners. My name is Mark Resnick. It's MarcResnick.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Jeffrey Cook would like to say something.
Tom pointed out to me, when you look at the plan that's on the screen, you have the landscaping on each side of the door. However, on the building permit plans, it shows that one landscaping area is coming out and new landing and ramp is going in that place. I didn't pick up on that. I was looking at the site plan, and so the site plan and the building permit plan is different.
So that is an error. I know what that's from. When the building was commercial, it was required that we have a handicap ramp. And so when we applied for the permit, at that time, since the first floor was commercial, in other words, if you deny this, we'll have to put the handicap ramp in. But if the building is residential, the handicap ramp will no longer be required and the landscaping can remain.
So there's an error on the plan.
It was, that was the original permit plan was to have 4 residential units and 2 commercial units, so that the new plan or the new permit would not require a handicap ramp any longer, and then the landscaping could remain.
Mr. Resnick, the proposed residential units you'd like to add in lieu of the office space, are they going to be affordable rental units?
Well, most everything in Marlborough is pretty affordable. We charge less than what subsidizing housing charges. So we usually get about $1,500 or $1,600 for a modern 2-bedroom apartment. And, like Smock is in that area, and we have Smock tenants, and they actually would pay higher than what we are currently getting. So if we rent a Smock, or we just ask $1,500 to $1,600 for 2 beds.
You're renting them for $1,500 or $1,600 per
Correct.
unit? Monthly?
Yes. Yeah.
Are the existing housing units there paying that type of rent?
Yeah, that seems to be an easy market rate rent in Marlborough. We have, almost 200 apartments in Marlborough currently. And what I do is I renovate all the units. So all my units have like brand new granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, all new kitchens and bathrooms, all ceramic tile, all hardwood floors, no carpet, no vinyl tiles, no tub surrounds, none of that junk. So, and we've done the 4 units upstairs and they're really quite beautiful. And we're just trying to do the last 2 units.
Okay, have you had any complaints from anyone to the health department or something like that? Has the fire department inspected the building?
When we renovated the first 4 units, we had inspections from all electrical, plumbing, fire, and we've upgraded the fire system inside the building to the code. So I added the, like hardwired smokes and heat detector, strobe lights, whatever was required by the fire department has already been added to the building.
Does the building have a sprinkler system, fire sprinkler system in it?
It does not have a suppression system. It only has a hardwired smokes and like monitoring equipment to have it monitored by the fire department.
Okay, yeah, Jeff?
Just so you know, they're changing this to a 6 unit, it will require them to put a sprinkler system in, fire suppression system in now.
They would have to put it in now.
Yeah.
On the new code?
Yeah.
All right, did you hear that, Mr. Resnick?
Yes, I did. It's okay. We put in quite a few fire suppression systems already, and if that's what's required, that's what we will do.
Just wanted to answer your question.
All right. Yeah, they have to be inspected after on the plans and by the plumbing department, I'm assuming, right? No, just
Well, the
building.
fire department approves the entire system. It's required that we'll need a designated water line that'll have to come in from the street. I actually put in 10 or 15 retrofit sprinkler systems, in like my career. So it's an ordeal, but if that's what's required, that's what we do.
Okay. If I understand it correctly, if this gets approved, you still have to go to the city council? Mr. Resnick?
I don't believe so. I think that was if we were appealing versus requesting a variance. I could be wrong.
Right. Just for us.
Well,
Okay, any questions from members of the board?
yeah, I do. This is Bob Levine speaking. So you come to the zoning board of appeals for relief from our zoning regulations. Essentially, 2 places. The off-street parking bullets, which are there 4 of them, violate the table of uses for the property and also the landscaping. So as far as the zoning laws go, property owners know what the zoning laws, or they have access to what the zoning laws are when they build. And abutters expect the city to uphold the zoning laws because they've purchased property. They expect, they have expectations of what's going to be around them. So to get all this relief from our zoning laws, you have to have a hardship. I haven't seen a hardship described in your application. You do quote that a hardship imposes a substantial financial penalty or directly affects the use of the land or structure as it is zoned. So you want to use it not as it is zoned, but differently. So I'm wondering, and there's certainly nothing to do with the topography of the soil here. It's a flat, square parking lot. You just want to have it fit more families than it's zoned for. So what is the hardship that this board can cite to issue all these 4 variances of off-street parking, variance to table usage, and landscaping variances? What is the hardship?
Well, in terms of so it's obviously not the shape of the lot, but the topography is such that the way that the lot slopes downwards towards the back, it's just not feasible to add additional parking behind the building. And in terms of the landscaping, the soil conditions would not be ideal for the landscaping because of the giant pre-existing parking lot that's there that will have eroded the soil conditions. And so even if he wanted to comply with the landscaping, the soil would not be in good condition for that. And all this, causes financial penalty to my client in general because, as I stated, I think earlier, there's no interest in the commercial property in that particular area. While it is technically zoned for that, the general area surrounding this property is primarily residential. And leaving the commercial units unrented obviously is a large financial hardship for the petitioner. It's also a safety concern for the other tenants. There is concern about squatters, vandals, in general, people who would take advantage of an empty first floor of a building. So, and that could also be a great financial hardship for the petitioner as well. If he had to try to evict squatters, if he has to try and provide additional security to the existing tenants.
I would like to add that the real hardship is that this was a 6-unit apartment building and was built as a 6-unit apartment building, and someone gave relief. I'm not, knowledgeable enough to know exactly how the previous owner got the relief to convert this to a commercial structure for his own personal needs. And now my hardship is that since he's passed away, I don't have those personal needs anymore. These units have bathrooms with tubs in them. The kitchens have been removed in one side. The other one, it's an apartment that the man uses as an accounting office. And I don't have my own accounting office. And so that the hardship is that I'm stuck with the other person was able to get relief somehow to convert it to commercial. And now I'm stuck with commercial units that are non-marketable and unusable in the community.
Okay, so Attorney Barretta, you made some good points, and Mr. Resnick, you made some good points. But unfortunately, these hardships, you're realizing them because you want to put 6 apartments. That's where your hardship is. It's you want to use the structure differently than what it's zoned. If you had 4 apartments, excuse me, I'm still speaking. So your hardship is you want to expand it. If it was a smaller number of apartments, everything would fit. So none of the arguments of your hardship meet the legal requirement of the hardships that we can recognize to issue a zoning variance.
Well, it's not really, with all due respect, it's not so simple as to turn it is a 6-unit building. It already has 6 units in it. And so to convert it into 4 units, you're suggesting, I guess, larger bedroom spaces or larger, apartments with more bedrooms that are, I guess, 2-story large apartments, which would be its own hardship because there's not really a market for that in Marlborough. Not to mention, we would still not be in compliance. I believe if we had all those additional bedrooms, we'd have 2 4-bedroom apartments. That doesn't actually help anything.
I agree with everything you're saying as far as the marketability and the business case. But again, I think, I'm not sure if you've looked up the definition of the hardships that we recognize. And the fact that it's a hardship for you that you can't make 6 apartments here is not a hardship that we can recognize as a reason to give a variance on all these things.
I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand because this building was built as a 6-unit residential building. And all we're trying to do is restore it to its original use. We're not adding any units. We're not adding any floor space. We're not asking for anything except for to undo the request that you granted to the previous owner and restore the building to its original uses.
Right,
And
there's
our
also
hardship,
there's
that's
also the
quite a
financial.
hardship.
All right, Mr. Rada.
Well, I was gonna say that there's also a financial burden placed to the petitioner, and that I mean the commercial units have remained unrented despite his efforts. So he would be asked to just continue to take care of and manage a building that's completely under rented and underutilized. You know, regardless of, you know, I mean, he can't just make tenants out of thin air. It's not that there are commercial tenants that are in there that he's trying to kick out. There's literally no rent. So we have a 6-unit building that just can't be fully occupied. And as I indicated, it does pose a security issue to the other tenants to have this open vacant space, which means that you don't necessarily, you know, you can't necessarily even charge, you know, adequate rent. You can't charge them extra rent to make up for the fact that there's, you know, open space on the first floor.
Mr. Beretta, could I make a couple of comments, please?
Sure.
This is Chairman Paul Junta. The front of the property along Maple Street, you have a sign on the left side.
Correct.
Is that space that the sign is within, is it about 5 feet or 6 feet wide?
It's a large sign that was pre-existing because the building has commercial uses. And so
you've got the line across the front of it there. And I don't know, the dimension here might make it look like it's about a 5-foot width from front to back.
it's a large,
What's that?
it's a very large sign, but if we convert the building back to the residential uses, we would take the sign down. The sign is to announce that the previous owner had an accounting firm there.
Yeah.
We don't need that if we get residential apartments.
If the sign gets torn down or taken down, is there a possibility those 4 spaces that are going in as a diagonal could go perpendicular to Maple Street?
I think if we make it more perpendicular, we'll lose some green space. But if you have a preference as to how we do it, we would prefer to do it the way you would prefer it.
I'm not making the preference, I'm just asking you a question if that is a possibility.
I think that they could straighten up some and give better that middle space that was required that we can't meet, the turning radius of about 16 or 18 feet. I think that we could move it forward some, and we would definitely eliminate the sign. But probably all I was proposing at this point was just to add more landscaping, but I would be willing to leave some, add more parking if that's what you prefer.
Mr. Jeffrey Cook would like to say something about that.
Jeffrey Cook, if they take away any of that green landscaping area in that front, that's going to require a different, additional zoning relief, because that's going to change the lot coverage. You're increasing lot coverage.
Yeah.
And there's a requirement to have so much landscaping there anyways.
Right. And they do say that there's landscaping behind the building. Is that area there? It looked like it was about a 3-foot drop from the parking area to that back portion of the land behind the building. Is that correct?
There is a rear yard.
But the topography of the plan here shows about a 3-foot difference from the parking area going down into the landscape area at the back of the property. So the drop of 3 feet.
So that's correct. There's a staircase and some railroad ties that are used as a retaining wall there. And so if you were in the parking lot, you could walk down a small set of stairs into the rear yard. And, obviously, depending on what happens with all this, we would upgrade the rear yard as well. We've been upgrading the property continuously since we bought it, but I have not upgraded the rear yard yet.
Okay.
This is Tom Golden. Would these, the proposed spaces, would they be assigned to the particular units, or would it be first come, first serve as far as the parking spaces go?
Currently, we have more spaces than we need. And so we're allowing everyone to come first serve, because there's no issues. So there's no parking issues. We will have 10 spaces for 6 apartments. And we will not, unless the 2-bedroom apartments have like 3 cars and 2 cars, then we're not going to have any issue currently with parking. And it's 2 cars for each unit except for 2 of them. So we have 2 cars for 4 units and 1 car for 2 other units. That is sufficient in Marlborough, from my experience, that we're not getting 2 cars for every unit. We find that the more parking we have, the more cars we attract. So if you offer people 2 parking spaces, you often get tenants with 2 cars. If you offer tenants only 1 space, you often get tenants with only 1 car.
Okay, thank you.
This is Tom Pope. Point of clarification, the 2 parking spaces in the driveway, you cannot count those because those are on the property line, goes right through that driveway.
I think it's it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that. What was wrong with the driveway?
The driveway is located, the property line goes right through the middle of the driveway. So you don't own all the driveway. So you cannot.
Can't use it.
Can't use that to count it. So you're still at 8 parking spaces.
I didn't know.
I think that's why the building department listed it as 8 spaces and not 10. It looks like there's a right of way that allows them to technically use that, even if it's not in full zoning compliance to be counted.
Even though we don't own the 2 spaces, we're still allowed to park the 2 cars there. So I am going to be able to park 10 cars, even if I only own 8 spaces.
Do you have an easement to do that?
I thought there was a right of way to cross over it, but I could be mistaken. I thought that's what was.
Yeah, there's a recorded right of way. The book and page is listed on the.
The right of way would prohibit parking there.
The right of way is off his property. So
Right.
it must be he has a right of way to that. I don't have any deed reference to that. As to
We don't know
who has the right of way.
we don't know who has the right of way for that. Could be the property way back. Or the property on the right.
Do you have a description of that right of way?
I'm looking it up right now because I don't know that I have it right in my files. So I'm looking it up real quick.
Either way, they can use it. Let's just say that there's their use. It doesn't count to the required off-street parking.
Right.
It's gotta be on their property.
Yeah.
I mean, they can add it, so I mean, there's a benefit though they have 10 spaces, but really only have only 8 spaces on their property. And Jeffrey, I'd just like to point out that the zoning code for the required landscape area, I believe that was added, but that section was amended in 2014. That the section that requires
The requirement.
that you have to have the required landscape area equal to 1 floor with 8% or the percentage.
I do have the right-of-way language on here. It does indicate that they could park a motor vehicle thereon. So this was the original. It looks like it was both lots were owned by the same grantor, and when he granted the lot next door, he reserved to himself, his heirs, and his sons a right-of-way to pass and repass on foot and with motor vehicles over a 10-foot strip running in a westerly direction from Maple Street along the entire southerly border of the granted premise premises together with the right to use said right of way for the purpose of parking a motor vehicle thereon.
You're saying they have a right to use that right of way?
It specifically states that there's the right of way for the purpose of parking motor vehicle.
This is Ralph Lofton. Excuse me. As I look at this, as I hear the discussion, I'm troubled not by the individual requests, but the aggregate, the total of all these is really hard for me to get my head around. We haven't heard anything, by the way, about the requirement that the vehicles are going to back out into a public way. That hasn't been addressed. We haven't heard anything about the maneuvering aisle width, even if we can somehow convince ourselves that this amount of parking is sufficient. It strikes me that this is a classic case of trying to shoehorn an existing building into today's zoning requirements. And it just, I can't make it fit. There's just too many things that have to be relieved. And I'd fully appreciate the owner's dilemma about having space that's going unused and perhaps having some difficulty with the financial piece of this. But it's not the zoning board's responsibility to provide financial relief. And as I look at the number of variances that are being requested, that I just don't see a way out of it.
I mean, the thing to keep in mind is that this is not a parking lot that my client has created just for the purpose of turning this building residential. This is an existing parking lot that predates even converting it to commercial. And leaving it commercial does not relieve the issues that exist, because as I indicated, that even more parking is required for commercial. And there's just with the slope of the parking lot and the slope of the backyard behind the building, there's just no way to even add more parking spaces for commercial. So even in a situation where, you know, tomorrow someone knocks on his door and says, I want to be an accountant in your building, he's still going to have the issue where he'd be taking away even more parking from the residential tenants that currently exist there if he were to get commercial tenants in there, because commercial tenants are going to expect not only that themselves and their employees have parking spaces, but that their customers do as well. So that is why there's a greater need for parking if it remains commercial. So it's not necessarily that we're trying to shoehorn in, you know, the zoning just to meet our own needs. We're actually trying to make the property more in conformity, but we're sort of stuck with this existing, you know, I mean, the building itself is from, you know, 1900. This is a very old lot and building. And we're talking about, you know, prior to 1974, this was just fully residential. But again, my client is not, he did not design this parking lot. This was not his, you know, this is not, you know, his plan for trying to make the property residential. He's looking at this building as is and saying, well, this doesn't meet, you know, this is not best used as a commercial building. The parking is wrong. The building's not really designed for that. It is more properly designed to be a 6-unit residential, but there are some technicalities because this parking lot predates, you know, the zoning code. I mean, if it had never been converted to commercial, it would just be a grandfathered in lot that was just a 6-unit residential building. The issue was that someone was able to get permission to turn it into a multi-use building where it's even less in conformity. And now he's trying to make it work for the neighborhood. He's trying to make it work for the tenants. And I mean, we're certainly happy to discuss, you know, if the parking lot is a priority over the green space, we can certainly go back and, you know, try and revise it and see if he can do, you know, increase the parking lot. But again, you will lose some green space, and we're sort of at a crossroads here. We have to sort of pick a priority. You know, if they want more landscaping, we're going to lose some parking. If we try and add more parking, we're going to lose landscaping. And I mean, we're happy, you know, if the board has a particular way where you say, well, this parking lot, you got to fix the angles, you got to see if you can get more. And if you lose landscaping, then we'll adjust for that. That's fine. I mean, that's the hardship there, but we sort of need some direction here, but, you know, we're happy to work with you on that as well. I just want to point out that, again, that this is not, you know, my client didn't say, this is the parking that I want and this is what I'm doing. This is just the existing parking.
We do understand that. And this is one of those ugly situations that we've had before where we have a situation that comes before the board that was created with, you know, last year's zoning requirements or last generation zoning requirements. And they could exist unchanged forever as long as the owner doesn't want to make some change to it, as is being proposed here. But when when we have to consider the change, then we have to consider those in light of today's zoning requirements. We can't, you know, we can't argue that it was okay before and therefore it's okay now.
If I could,
neither is it the board's responsibility, nor should we be trying to redesign this piece on the fly. The owner needs to understand that these are today's requirements, and to bring a plan to the board that meets today's requirements or that has a reasonable number of variances that have to be relieved. I just don't see that has happened here.
If I could comment, so all the variants requested, if we leave the space commercial, none of the things that you're hoping for will be resolved. The people will still continue to back into the street, but more of them. And we'll have more problems, will be less in compliance, and your community has a property in it that is not viable. The possibility of commercial space in that building does not exist. I couldn't rent the space for $300. I couldn't get someone to move in there for free. So if this building is not reconverted to its original use of a 6-family, the first floor will become a blighted property in your community forever. Because I just have to admit, I am not nearly smart enough to use this space in any way other than residential. And if I use it as commercial and you deny this, I'll be less in compliance with the parking. I'm still going to be backing into the street. I'm still going to have not enough landscaping space. And I'm not asking for anything other than to take away the relief that you previously granted to a personal person. This is and was always designed as a 6-family. And a very nice gentleman was able to use the building as his personal offices. He took apartments and put desks inside them. That is not a viable concept in Marlborough in today, as best as I can tell you. And so I'm not trying to do anything other than restore the building back to its original use, which will have viability in the community. So I'm a pretty good landlord. I currently own about 180 apartments in Marlborough. This is not viable to have commercial space. And if it's not amended, then I'm gonna stuck with this building. I couldn't sell this building because the first floor is blighted and vacant forever. I can't rent the first floor because it's blighted and vacant forever. So I'm stuck with only one choice, which is convert this to residential, or I'm gonna have to leave the first floor vacant and blighted forever. And I'm not here to try to beat you guys, but I have a 6-unit apartment building on a double-sized lot where I have more parking per unit at this building in Marlborough than any of the 17 other properties I currently own in Marlborough. And so, like, I understand the code, but we don't even need all the spaces we have. And if I put stores in there, which I can't even put in, I'll have way more cars. They'll have 4 to 6 cars that work inside the facility as well as clients. I couldn't possibly have commercial space in this building because I would need so much more parking. And if I just don't, all I can tell you is what I hear is you're saying I'm asking for all this relief, and I'm only asking to use the property as it was built, as viable as it possibly exists. Otherwise, I'm just telling you, otherwise I'm just going to have this property vacant forever. I can't give it away. I could not give it away. I will rent any of the spaces to any of you for $200 if you'll pay me money. Nobody will pay us money for those spaces.
Resnick, I've got some questions I'd like to ask of the building commissioner. Jeff, do you know what the original permit date was for the construction of this building? When it was originally built?
Estimated year is 1900.
1900. So it predated zoning.
Correct.
Okay.
Also understand the lot closest to Maple Terrace, you see the dotted line going through the parking lot? That used to be another building, that's 274A lot. And there was a building on that, and that was torn down to make the parking lot.
You're talking about to the left of Maple Terrace? To the right.
To the right, see the dotted line going in, right at number 3 parking spot, gets to the right of the sign.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
That dotted line, that's lot 274A.
That was a separate building at the time?
And that had a separate building on it that was torn down, and I guess that was purchased to put this in.
All right, the reason I asked you for that information, the information that we have in some of the paperwork here, documents show that 1974, someone purchased the property and had changed it to the 4+2, right?
I don't have documents.
Correct.
Four residential and made two of them commercial. And that was 1974. That's 46 years ago. So it's been in that category for 46 years. I would
It was
say
the
that's a
same
pretty good-
owner. It was the same owner for
pretty
46
good history
years.
for the use of that property.
4+2.
Huh?
4+2.
4+2, right. So 46 years,
But yeah, so for multifamily,
right?
All I can tell you is if you can't bring that dead guy back, then that property has no use in Marlborough for the rest of history, or at least another 46 years.
Yeah,
And I don't know how to bring that dead guy back. And
You
so,
also
the property-
make a statement in your presentation here that it's convenient to, or where is it here? It's similar to other properties in the neighborhood, residential type properties. I would say there's probably a 50-50 situation on Maple Street between commercial properties and residential properties,
It is a business zone.
right?
This is located in the business zone.
Yeah, it's in the business zone, but we have commercial type properties where this had two businesses in the residential property. There are other properties up and down Maple Street in that area that have commercial or business utilization. It's not all residential. So I don't buy the statement that it's predominantly residential. Are there any other questions from the board members?
I just want to make a comment on the fact that if it remains commercial, that it would be blighted. That would only become blighted if you allowed it to become blighted. As a property owner, I am in commercial real estate. I do have some vacant space right in the city of Worcester. It's not blighted because I make sure it's not blighted. I take steps to prevent it.
Okay, if there are no further questions of the petitioners, then See, you gave. Anyone speaking in opposition to the petition? Okay, none. What board members now, do we have enough information or do you need more information? You want to continue at a certain date? You want to have a roll call vote? Any motions being made?
Chairman Gunta, this is Katie Roby. You didn't ask if there was anybody who just had questions. Is that part of this procedure or only for people to speak opposed?
I didn't get that. What you're saying?
Should, yeah, ask.
Counselor, can you repeat that?
Questions for people in favor. You ask people who are opposed.
Yeah.
So that's questions or in
Yeah, the
favor.
people in favor. yeah.
Okay. Or in questions.
Do you have any other people in favor of this petition, Mrs. Beretta?
Not at this, not that I have attended the meeting, no.
Can I ask a question? I actually have two questions.
So.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Can you hear me okay?
go ahead.
All right, my first question is looking at the assessment, the vision assessment card for this parcel. It is listed as a 3-bedroom apartment. And then looking at the city code, 3 or more dwellings on a single lot require a special permit. So if he wants to go from his existing, he's calling it 4 to 6, he would have to come before the city council for a special permit, I believe.
Correct, that's already in my denial letter.
Yeah, that is also noted in the denial letter from the building commissioner.
Okay, but I'm curious, it says that it's a 3-bedroom apartment. That's what he's been assessed for since the last time it looks like they were in the property was 2018. Is it 3 or is it 4 bedrooms?
There are no 3-bedroom apartments in the building.
Hold
None.
on, Mark. Hold on.
3
If you look,
1-bedroom apartments.
yeah, if you look up above that though, the first line says 4 apartments and 2 offices. So I'm not sure. I mean, I see what you mean where it says 3 1-bedroom apartments, but my understanding is that it's technically assessed as 4 apartments. But elsewhere it notes it as a 3-family. It's a little confusing. So I'm not sure either, to be honest. But if you do look under the notes, it says 4 apartments and 2 offices.
Yes, Mr. Cook, Jeffrey Cook.
The field card, the vision field card is nothing to make a zoning determination from. Those are for assessment information.
Right.
And I think Mr. Resnick's been remodeling, and I'm not sure, because I'm not real familiar, because I went and did the permit. But did he convert somebody to the same 3 1-bedroom apartments? And I think some of these, like the first floor here, he's got 2 bedrooms now. And that's okay, he's been doing work under permits. So maybe his assessor's information is not updated correctly on the field card.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
See, people understand that, whoever was speaking. Okay. All right, members of the board?
So, this is Bob Levine. So to me, everything, all these variances that are being requested stem from the fact that they want to use this as a 6-family unit instead of 4, which is what this table of uses allows. So if it went to 4, it looks like, and I'm not designing this and I'm not proposing design changes, but it looks like if it was for 4, then maybe you could shoehorn all these parking spaces in there. But with the restriction that it's got to be 6, I can't see, as Ralph pointed out, granting all these variances. If there was 1 little one, 2 little ones, that's one thing. But there's a whole page of them here, just stemming out of the fact that you want to violate the table of uses and go from 4 to 6. I understand maybe it was 6 in the past, But when you do work on the property, you have to meet the current zoning rules, and that's what it is.
So if
I
I
mean,
could, if I could
because-
comment, I would like to comment, because if I use the space as commercial space, I would need every single piece of relief required and additional relief.
That may be true.
So its current use would require more relief than I'm requesting today.
No, sir,
More
that's
relief.
not true. That is not correct.
Require any zoning relief. It gets continued.
If you continue to use it as it is today, you would require no relief.
But I
I mean,
wouldn't,
you
if
got-
I, that's not what I said, sir. So excuse me. What I said was, if I was requesting to put 2 commercial units in the first floor, I would need more relief. So what you're really saying is that I have pre-existing condition that's more onerous than what I'm requesting. And because it's pre-existing, it's okay to be more onerous to the building code than what I would like to do. See, because if I was going to request 2 commercial units, I would need all the same relief. I wouldn't have the right number of parking spaces. I wouldn't have the right amount of green space. I wouldn't have the proper turning radiuses. And I'd need even additional relief because I need even more parking spaces. And there are other requirements. I need a handicap ramp. I would need all kinds of relief. And so I don't understand, because it's not viable. Nobody will take my space. Nobody, for over 2 years. There's no people in Marlborough who want to rent this space. So one gentleman commented that it wouldn't be blighted. In my opinion, all vacant space is blighted, and it's a terrible thing for the community. And when I bought the building, it was totally vacant, and then I invested a lot of money and made it a nice property. And if you don't allow me to invest money in your community and fix these properties, then I'm going to end up with another lousy property in Marlborough. And I don't like owning lousy properties. I want to fix them. But honest, I've hired 4 different real estate agents. I've had a sign on the outside of the building. The idea that Maple Street is going to be a commercial unit, and not only counting now in the age of COVID, I don't know what world this is. There's no way. I'm a very professional landlord. I own hundreds and hundreds of units in 15 or 20 different communities, and I am not nearly smart enough to rent this space out as a commercial space.
But the thing to keep in mind is that it's not that, it's not just that you could put any, commercial in there. There's tenants above there. So it's not like you can just say, well, I'm going to, put a McDonald's in here. I'm going to put a laundromat in here. It has to be a specific type of commercial. I mean, in this case, it has to be, offices, and you're looking for, a quieter tenant who's not going to interfere with the residential tenants above. So, I mean, it was pointed out that there are some other commercial uses in the area. There's takeout, pizza and a takeout restaurant. And I think there's a laundromat. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you can't put in this kind of a building. And there's just less use for actual offices in this, but it's not an office building type area. So I mean, when I say that doesn't fit the neighborhood, it's not a neighborhood of professional offices, which is what you need in a mixed use building like this.
I can't hear it.
The other thing I would say is that, again, I've heard a lot of feedback about the parking area having a lot of, zoning relief needed. I mean, we if granted a continuance, we could go back and see what kind of revisions we could make to the parking area. Because again, this is just showing, the spaces as they're configured now, and we could go back and try to at least meet more of the requirements for the parking, so that we would not be coming to you looking for as much relief from the parking.
Okay, thanks very much, Ms. Barata. The chair is going to now close the public portion of the hearing and ask a roll call vote. So closing the portion of the public portion.
You made it?
Yeah,
Okay, I second it.
motion's been made and second to close the public hearing, the public portion of the hearing.
Tom Golden, close the public portion.
Tom Pope, votes to close.
Ralph Lofton votes to close.
Okay, public hearing is closed. We have any motions to approve or deny the petition?
I have one more question for Jeff. At the, on this page showing the plot, there's a little graph on the right-hand side that shows some violations of setbacks. Are those any concern here?
Those are all existing, so they weren't changing any of the parking lot for the lot coverage.
Okay, so it's not a non-conforming, becoming more non-conforming.
No.
Okay.
So we would have to vote on several of these variance requests that are in his denial letter individually.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one to,
Well, can I make a comment first? I don't know, to give them the option to reconsider, but I would not be in favor of approving any of these at this time. So that might give a chance for them to withdraw without prejudice and redesign this, because if there's one more vote, it's going to pass. So I just want to throw that out.
any other comments from the board members?
I feel the same way as Ralph. I feel the same way. I would have a very hard time approving any of these variance requests.
Okay, you want to make a motion to allow them to withdraw?
Well, yeah, so I'll make a motion to allow the petitioner to withdraw without prejudice and come back with a redesign. If not, then this is probably not going to pass, because 2 out of 5 have already expressed that opinion. My motion is to allow them to withdraw without prejudice if they want, and come back with something different.
I would second that.
All right,
We're okay with that.
Ralph, are you seconding the motion?
I am, yes.
Okay, all right, any discussion of the motion by the board? If not, all those in favor, we'll call the roll on the motion. Those in favor, please indicate your preference.
Levine, yes.
Tom Golden, yes.
Tom Pope, yes.
Ralph Lofton, yes.
Paul Junter, yes. So Attorney Barata, this board has voted to allow you leave to withdraw without prejudice, which would give you the opportunity to come back with any revisions to a plan or revised application
Thank you.
and take your chances as opposed to being pushed through tonight and sacrificing the possibility of it being denied.
Thank you. We will take the opportunity to withdraw without prejudice and come back with a redesigned plan for you.
Okay, thank you very much. The chair will entertain a meeting to adjourn.
Close the public hearing.
Maybe close the public. I move to close the public hearing.
Okay.
We close it. We did close that. No, the public portion of the meeting. Okay. All right, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Yes.
Go to the members.
Levine, yes.
Yes.
Tom Golden, yes.
Tom Pope, yes.
Ralph Lofton, yes.
Paul Junter, yes. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Now you want to
Couldn't possibly tell me I'm switching.
adjourn the meeting,
Motion.
seconded by Tom.
That you did a poor, that was the one thing you did a poor job of conveying. I tried to tell him 100.
Yes, Levine, yes.
Tom Golden, yes.
Tom Pope, yes.
Ralph Lofton, yes.
Paul Junter, yes. We've adjourned the meeting.
The red one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. So we're done?
Yeah, we're done. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Have